What's going on, guys? Before we get into this show today, I just want to give you a little foresight of it. Josh and Becky Shimko were brave enough to stop onto the show today, give us a really personal story about Josh's struggle with PTSD. There's a lot going on, and he's still continuing with his journey and trying to recover and heal. But we really do appreciate both of them coming on and being very open, very, very vulnerable. It's not an easy thing to do, and that's what we continue saying over and over again. If you need help, reach out. So please enjoy this next interview with Josh and Becky. It's very insightful into the struggles that a police officer can have, or any public safety person can have with PTSD. It's a really riveting story, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So, guys, take care of each other. We really appreciate all the help and the support that everyone's given us here. So, I present to you Josh and Becky Shimko on the Weight We Carry podcast. You guys be safe, take care of each other. See you on the flip side. To illuminate the often unseen mental health challenges faced by first responders, police officers, firefighters, paramedics, and 911 dispatchers, by sharing their stories, fostering understanding, and promoting resources for support and healing. We aim to break down stigma, advocate for improved mental health services within the first responder community, and inspire hope and resilience. This is the Weight We Carry podcast. What's going on, guys? This is Bart with the Weight We Carry podcast, and today we have two very special guests, Josh and Becky Shimko. Josh has a very unique story. Well, it's very unique to him, but I think a lot of officers can suffer from the same stuff. And he was brave enough to come on the show to share a story with us, along with his wife. Josh and Becky, thank you, guys. Thank you very much for being on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And Josh, if you'd like to, if you could just introduce yourself and let everyone know what's going on with you.
Yeah, I'm Josh Shimko. Been a police officer for 24 years of my life. I've been off work for the last year and a couple months. Was diagnosed with PTSD, severe depression and anxiety disorder, all stemming from a call that I went on last January. So January of 2024, responded to a suicide that, was kind of like every other suicide. They're not good, but you pack them away. And for whatever reason, now I don't know, get into that. But this one broke me, and here I am to tell my story and hopefully reach somebody out there that needs help.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much. And Becky, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Josh's wife, Becky. I've been with Josh for almost 23 years, so most of his law enforcement career. So just going along the journey with him and just being supportive of him through this really difficult time.
Awesome. Awesome stuff. All right, guys, let's get into a little bit of the questions, okay? Josh, if you can, take us back to the beginning. What drew you into public safety, and what was your early career like in the National Park Service?
Yeah, so I grew up in Kane, which is a small town a couple hours north of Pittsburgh. My dad was in the Pennsylvania Fish Commission, so I grew up with kind of like the backcountry wildlife patrol kind of aspect of law enforcement. So really had fun, going out with my dad and patrolling and doing some cool stuff with him as a little kid, and looking up to them kind of pushed me into that kind of career. So I started looking for colleges after high school, and I found Slippery Rock University had a park ranger program, and I was like, that's perfect. It's the same thing. It's law enforcement in the woods, but I can also be a firefighter and EMT and cross off all those boxes at once.
Heck yeah, very cool. Very cool. And you spent some time in the most beautiful places in the country, the Mesa Verde and Shenandoah, Acadia. What were some of those most challenging and rewarding aspects of that type of work?
It was pretty amazing. It's a cool job. You're kind of on your own, but you are in the most beautiful places in the country, and you get to live there and spend all your time. You're not a tourist, but you kind of feel like a tourist, in your backyard. So it was kind of neat. At Mesa Verde, I was front country patrol for 1 year. And then I did some backcountry patrol on horseback and everything.
Wow.
The second year. And then I went to Shenandoah, where I was mostly front country, basically doing patrol stuff and traffic stops and that kind of stuff. So it was more police work. While I was at Shenandoah, I got sent to Philadelphia, where they had me on a detail for 6 months guarding the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall. So that was an interesting experience dealing with being a park ranger and actually working a little bit with Philadelphia police. They operate a lot different than a park ranger does. So
I'm sure.
So
big
I've got
city
a couple.
of the first class over that way.
Yeah,
it's a big city.
yeah, and it's madness over there. So yeah, I don't know if I could ever work in Philly. But then after that, I went to Acadia up in Maine, where I was a boat patrol, backcountry boat patrol. So I spent most of my time on a boat and in the middle of nowhere. So I would say the hardest things that we had to deal with is most of the time you were alone. So there were several times where, you'd run into somebody in the backcountry that you just knew something was wrong, and it was better to just back away because it's not worth. Yeah. So your backup would be sometimes days away. We stayed out on this island that we had to patrol, and you'd be out there, and if something happened to you, you were it. Like nobody was coming for you for like at least an hour. They had to take a boat out there and everything. So
you're really taking care of yourself, honestly.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah. So it kind of helped me because I actually enjoyed it. But I think that's where I kind of got my isolation from. So my self-medication is isolation. I didn't go into drugs or alcohol or anything. I just want to be alone, because that was like my happy spot. Being out in the middle of nowhere and on my own with nature was my safe place. So that's kind of where I reverted back to that. But the most rewarding thing, like I said, was it was a great job. I got to be a police officer, a firefighter, and an EMT. We fought forest fires. I've saved countless lives. Drove the ambulance, was in the back of the ambulance, worked countless people. And so it was very, very rewarding.
Heck yeah, man. It sounds awesome. I mean, that would be a really cool experience. You're self-resilient and self-reliant on yourself for days at a time. And how often did you see any other patrolmen or any other forestry people that would come out?
Every park was different, but like Shenandoah, if I was in the backcountry in Shenandoah, like I would hike the Appalachian Trail, and sometimes you wouldn't see anybody all day. Idaho was that island that we would stay out, and there were some people that lived out on the island, but when you were out in like the national park area of it, there was nobody. So you stay out in this cabin that was built in the 1700s that you can see through the walls, and you'd wake up to mice running across you and stuff. So It was pretty rustic. Yeah.
That's cool though. I mean, that would have been a really cool experience either way.
It was.
Heck yeah. So what eventually led you from transitioning out of the National Park Service to the municipal policing?
Becky?
She's like, no, we're staying out in the woods.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. So I was going to transfer from Acadia National Park to Corpus Christi down in Texas, which is a border park. I was going to be a rescue diver. And she was like, it's not going to happen. So I looked around. I was like, well, if I can find a job closer by that'll hire me before my transfer goes through, I'll do that. So it just happened. My buddy from Kane was working in Alexandria, Virginia, and he was like, we're always hiring down there. So I looked into his department, and then I was like, oh, that's right by Arlington. Let me check out Arlington, where the Pentagon and like it's the Arlington National Cemetery. I was like, that would be awesome to work there. So I pulled up their page and they were hiring. So I clicked the link, and the rest is history. I ended up being a police officer down on the beat with where the Pentagon is in Crystal City and the Crystal City Mall and everything. So it was busy. It was fun.
It's really cool, man. That would have been, I have a few friends that are DC fire medics down there too. So
Yep.
That would have been a really cool place to work. So you've had an incredibly diverse career in crime scene work, and SWAT, firearms instruction, search and rescue. So looking back at that, what were some of the moments that really shaped yourself in your career?
Well, being a park ranger, I was really personable. You have to look at your police work as secondary, because the people are there to have a good time and they're all on vacation and stuff. So you got to kind of put the hardcore police stuff in your back pocket for when you need it. But most of the time you're just trying to take care of them. So through the Park Service, I learned to be very personable with people and learn how to care for people and learn that, everybody's dealing with their own things and, having a bad day on vacation and and park ranger walking up and telling them they need to do something is probably not the best way to do it. So I learned to talk to people, and the best days of their lives and the worst days of their lives. So that really shaped how I became as a police officer the way I was. Really caring for people and worrying more about them and not myself, which was my downfall. I didn't take care of myself at all.
Yeah.
Because it was all codependency, working to make sure everybody else was good and better and okay, because that's what I fed on.
Now, so getting into the mental health and the awareness of it, can you talk about the weight of the cumulative traumas in law enforcement in general? And were there any signs of the PTSD early on that you brushed aside and just didn't recognize, or are there any
Yeah, for
incidences
sure.
that you can remember?
Yeah, definitely. So looking back, there's quite a bit. I ended up going to an inpatient after I got diagnosed for 2 months, and had a really good therapist there that kind of opened my eyes on to why I was the way I was and why, that call broke me and everything. So going back, the cumulative PTSD, she described it as like a dam. We have this dam of resiliency, and behind that dam is all those incidents pushing. And every once in a while, you'll have a significant incident. We all have that bad incident, that broke us. But you have those ones that like are a chink in the armor or a crack in the dam, and all those cracks keep building up and building up and building up, and you lose that resiliency after dealing with all those incidents and not taking care of yourself and finding an outlet or talking about it or therapy. All those cracks in the dam, eventually you have zero resiliency. You go to that next call and you just can't handle it. So that's what happened to me is, 24 years of being a police officer, everything built up, the politics of my police department. There's a lot of stuff going on there, how they were running things and what stuff they were doing with me. That really just put me in a really bad place to be answering a call like that. And that was my downfall.
So the day that you're always going to remember, January 4th, 2024, was a turning point for you. And can you walk us through that day and how it triggered the spiral into the PTSD and nightmares and night terrors and ultimately suicidal thoughts?
Like you said, January 4th, I responded to a suicide call. It was actually the night before it was a missing person call. When I came into work, my coworker said there's probably a dead girl out there somewhere, which, as police officers, we have gallows humor and stuff. And it's like, what do you mean there's a dead person? Even though, we try to brush that stuff off, it hits you weird when someone's like, there's someone dead out there. Like, there shouldn't be someone dead out there, So either somebody didn't do their job or somebody messed up, because why is there a dead person out there and we're all sitting in here? So my resiliency was down, but my resiliency also led to some anger, the way things were handled there. And that was the actual punch to the gut, the last thing that I could handle. The betrayal by my department on how they handled that call that day literally broke me. So, I ended up responding to body in the water. The family found their mom floating in the water on the morning of January 4th. I responded there and was the one that went into the water to pull her out. When I grabbed her arm to pull her out, she grabbed my arm, leading me to believe that, she had some life left in her. Several officers, we talked about it and stuff, but, you run 1,000 scenarios through your head on why she would grab. Like, why would this person be able to grab me if they were gone? And it was pretty obvious when I pulled her out of the water, that she was deceased, but my mind wouldn't accept that. So, I'm fighting with my mind saying, no, she was gone. She grabbed your arm for this reason or this reason. It was no big, like, I don't want to say no big deal, because it was a huge deal, but it was in my mind, I was trying to justify what had happened to me. And I didn't think anything of it. I went to the station, did my report. I had to later go to the hospital and take photos for the deceased, and I packed it away just like every other call. There's my dog. She thinks she's a cat sometimes. So didn't think anything of it. It was just another notch in that wall that I had to put away, and be stronger then, because I had another call to go to after that, You can't dwell on those bad calls. So I went home, didn't discuss anything. I think I told my wife that I did take somebody out of the water, but that was it. I didn't really discuss what happened or anything like that. And then that night and the following nights, I started having dreams about it. I'm just replaying me going to the call. And then those dreams became nightmares where, my kids were drowning, or my wife was drowning, or I was drowning, significant people in my life were drowning. And then that developed into night terrors where this person that died was pulling me into the water saying, come with me, there's no pain here, So I started getting really bad where I couldn't sleep. I was scared to death to sleep, couldn't really function as a human being. And that's when I had to reach out to my chief, which was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, was ask him for help. But I knew I had to, because I was spiraling down so fast that it did become, suicidal. And thank God I didn't pull the trigger, because I know there's hope out there now.
Absolutely, there is, man. We're always here for you, and we've just met Josh, and I know a lot of people will say, my phone's always open. It's always open. I've
Sure.
talked to friends over the years, 3 in the morning, I get a phone call. So it's what we're here for. We're here to help each other. So what was it like realizing that you were struggling with PTSD, and do you recognize it? Did you recognize it immediately, or did it take someone else pointing it out to you?
No. So it took me about 3 weeks before I started spiraling way down. I didn't know what was going on with me. I was trying to write everything off as, it's just one of those things. I always thought PTSD was, like that combat vet that comes back. We weren't really taught much in the academy, had no outlet, no training really on PTSD and police officers. So I really didn't know what was going on with me. I just knew something was very wrong. And then, when I got to that real dark basement, that's when I knew I needed some help. And I didn't even know what it was then. I just knew that something was very wrong with me and I needed help. And luckily I had the strength to reach out to my department and say, please help me.
So many responders, and we all know this to be true, we suppress our emotions, just put it back in that lockbox, like you were saying. What was the breaking point, which I know now was one of this main call, but what was the breaking point where you knew you needed to step away and focus on your mental health?
That night when I put a gun in my mouth, I knew that I was in a bad place. I knew that my kids were going to find me. I knew that it would be a crime scene. I actually relived the crime scene, like I was there and what would be done and everything. And that's partially what saved me is knowing that, that officer that responded probably wouldn't do as good of a job as I would have. That's what was going through my mind, which is kind of screwed up. But I knew at that point that I had hit rock bottom, that I needed some serious help. And that was within 3 weeks. In December, thought I was invincible. I was strong. There was no indication that, to me anyways, I thought I was, like the alpha male. I had nothing wrong with me and I could handle anything.
Fine.
Yep. And then to go from that to, 3 weeks later being, a pile of mush is tough. It's real hard on you.
So for the listeners who might not understand PTSD, what were the day-to-day challenges you faced, and how did it impact your work, your family, and your personal life?
Yeah, like I said, I isolate. So a lot of people will self-medicate with alcohol or drugs or some other way, but I isolated. So for those first 3 weeks before I knew what was happening, I moved to the basement of the house and just wanted to be alone. I couldn't get up. My department basically pushed me to the side, and with no contact or any help at all. So I sat home alone, just dwelling on this and not sleeping, which, led to my ultimate spiral down to where, I haven't worked in a year and a couple months. So minus the isolation part, I wasn't eating right. I couldn't sleep at all. I don't know how. Becky can answer better, because my memory is just completely gone. I don't have any short-term memory. I've lost most of my significant memories just because my brain's still trying to protect itself. So I lose a lot of stuff really quick. She'll probably be able to get into a little bit better as to how I was acting and what I was doing. Cause to me, this whole last year and a few has been a blur. Like it seems like it seems like it happened a week ago. It's tough. It's tough for me to look back and feel that.
So what has been the most helpful tool in your recovery? The therapy, your service dog? And you mentioned that you got into the tattooing. So working out, and what's the most effective for you? What do you continue to do to this day to really help you?
I mean, I'm still a long way down. I got a long ways to go, but just having the support, like stuff like this and being able to share my story and maybe help somebody, that's my codependency coming out. So, being able to do this and maybe help somebody not get to the point that I was at, that night and let people know that it's okay and you're okay and you're going to be okay. So those are the biggest things, is just making sure that I'm okay, knowing that you're okay helps me, if that makes sense.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah. So, but other than that, I'm on some medications, which is probably helping me. I've never taken medications before in my life. So that's all new to me. And I'm guessing they're working because I'm still here and I have more better days than bad days. So the medication's good. I've got a great therapist that I see. He's former law enforcement. His name's Joe. He's incredible. He's helped me out a lot and he saved my life. He's the one that got me to go to inpatient therapy. Ended up going down to therapy in Florida for 2 months, basically to learn how to deal with myself. So a lot of different therapy types down there. I was able to learn how to cope with my feelings and understand that they're just feelings and it's not permanent and that kind of stuff. Did yoga, a lot of kayaking, working out. I'm hanging out with other guys that are dealing with the exact same thing I am. So just knowing that what I was going through, even though they didn't go through what I went through and I didn't go through what they went through, just knowing that somebody's feeling what you're feeling and it's okay and they're going to be okay. So I'm going to be okay and we're going to fight through that.
And we have that common ground,
For sure.
For sure,
yep,
man.
Absolutely.
And how about your service dog? How does she help?
Well, the biggest thing is she keeps me on my toes. So like I said, I isolate. So having her, she doesn't put up with my crap. So if I take too many naps, she's making sure I'm awake. She gets me up in the morning. If I have nightmares and stuff, she wakes me up. And then she goes everywhere with me to keep me from getting panic attacks. So if I'm in a crowd or something, I can focus on her, and not focus on just the people and the feeling of not being in control. So she helps me quite a bit. She's a good asset.
And so with that, what do you think? You mentioned not taking that path with alcohol or drug abuse. What really kept you from doing that?
I don't know. I've never had an addicted personality. I drink. I still drink a little bit socially, but I don't know. I just have never been. I've never had a vice, and maybe that's my downfall. I don't know. So no. So I didn't have anything else to really rely on, and never really thought about getting drunk and doing stuff because that hurt. So I would drink and get drunk and then, the pain would be more. So I wouldn't do it. It wouldn't be an escape for me. It would magnify everything.
Magnify, make it worse for sure. So if you could, what kind of advice would you give to any other first responders that are afraid to ask for help and to reach out?
Well, it's really hard to reach out to your management when they aren't supportive. And I think that's not across the board, but it's pretty common in police work because you don't want to be them. We respond to those types of calls. We aren't those calls, so to step over that line and say, I'm a human being and I'm a civilian and I need help. Really, the stigma there is really hard for someone to ask for help, and knowing now what I know, or knowing then what I know now, I would have known that I was okay. If I would have had that support and that understanding of PTSD in the very beginning, I wouldn't have been off of work for as long as I am. I would have been, got the help I needed immediately and went back to work probably by now. Hindsight's always 20/20, but a lot of people with PTSD and stuff are still on the job, and here I am sitting home alone still, over a year. So being able to ask for help, I know it's hard. You have those guys that are never going to do it. They'll never ask for help, and hopefully they don't break. Hopefully they can retire and fight those demons, through the rest of their life. But you have to ask for help, and it doesn't have to be through your supervision. It doesn't have to be, a supervisor. It can be a friend, a coworker, or cop line, 1-800-COP line, or something like that, where you're just talking to somebody and maybe getting the help you need, because the stigma of having PTSD as a police officer is right now basically career ending. So we want to end that, where it's okay to have PTSD. You just got to learn how to fight with it and work through it. And you can probably be a better police officer than a lot of them. Fortunately, the way I was treated and stuff, they've pushed me away, and I'm probably too far gone to go back to the job.
Becky, I have a few questions for you. And
Okay.
I know you've been sitting there patiently.
That's okay. It's about him.
No, but it's about the family. It's about family, and because I know with me, if I didn't have my wife and my son, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't. It's just that's my foundation. My wife and my son are my foundation, and I lean on them when I have my weekdays, and I have plenty of weekdays. And my wife she's a superwoman, and I believe you are too. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Becky.
I try.
So yeah, that's all we can do. That's all
I
we can do.
try. And, I do tell him all the time to lean on me. I'm here. But like he has said, he isolates, and he's in the middle of this. So he's going through it, and I try to give him his space, but I also tell him I'm here for him, and we're here for you. Lean on me, That's what I'm here for.
Absolutely, you are, and that's, I think, to have someone to stick it with you, to stick it out with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think back when I was in the hospital, and even my wife was like, "Of course I'm going to be here," but I'm like, she could have, after all the health issues that I have, and I was dying in the hospital, and it was during COVID, so she handled everything. I was in this little bubble. I had no clue what COVID was, and she was handling the real business, what was going on in the outside world, and I had no clue what was going on. So it takes a special person, and I'm sure Josh knows that you're a special person, to stick it with him. So Becky, tell me, when you first noticed any changes in Josh, okay, were there any early signs of PTSD with him before the main incident that occurred?
No, anything that happened at work, he tend to keep, he left it at work. He didn't bring it home with him. So unless it was something really funny, I work in the court system, so like I could relate a little bit. If it was funny, he would tell me, but for the most part, he left work at work. So Josh has always been a pretty happy person and would help anybody that ever needed it. So I didn't see anything. We had just celebrated Christmas, like everything was normal up until that day. So nothing, I could not see this coming.
And so how has this journey with him, how has it impacted you as a spouse? What's been the hardest part of watching Josh go through it?
I think the hardest part for me is knowing that I feel like I can't help him through this. He is not living in the house, so I'm doing a lot on my own. I do go to work, I do come home, I get the kids up, I get the kids on the bus, I go to work, I come home, what's for dinner? It has been a lot on me. Him and the kids are my number one priority, no matter what. And I say this every day to him. He tells me I need to focus on me, work on myself, and I have. But my main focus is him and the kids. And I just feel like I can't fix him, As a mom, you just want to fix things. As a wife, you want to be the person that they lean on and come to if they're going through anything. So my biggest, it's the hardest part is just not feeling like I'm good enough to fix him, I guess. I don't know how to put it.
Is there any advice that you could give to any other spouses or family members of first responders struggling with PTSD?
It's not nothing that they do is against you. You need to just stick by them, be by their side, tell them that you're there for them, check in on them. But you can't take anything personal because it's not personal. And it's taken me over a year to finally realize that this isn't about me. This is what he's going through, and it's not personal. He's not purposely isolating. He's not purposely not being in this house. He's not purposely pushing me away. It comes with the PTSD. So you just have to be supportive and hope that one day things will get better. And every day I just hope that things will get better.
No.
But
Good.
You just love them. You just gotta love them. Yeah.
So have you guys done any other therapy past the therapy for Josh? Any family therapy? Because that's such it is a unique situation.
Yeah.
And I know I couldn't imagine, not having someone that I'm married to in my house, especially with my children, having my son. So I know that has to be such a hard thing for both of you. But on your side of things as his spouse, how is that? I mean, you're taking on a lot of stuff, and how do you handle that from day to day? And I know you have to take care of yourself also, but in the meantime, how do you guys find that common ground to be able to work through your own relationship together still?
We still do everything together. So he still at night, he FaceTimes us. He makes sure that he says goodnight to us and loves us. And we have that every night, and every chance that we get, we spend time as a family together. I've let him tattoo me, so I think that has brought us together a little bit. And he's still very much there for me and the kids, just in a different way. He even bought me my own dog. That way I don't have to be lonely. But my daughter has taken her.
She stole the dog?
Yeah. So I am in therapy. The kids are not, but we do talk to them very openly about things. And I constantly telling them if there's anything that's bothering them, or asking them to tell me. I feel like we're a very open family. So, and then if something happens where I feel like, okay, I need to tell daddy, then Josh will step in. But for the most part, I just want him to have that peace. So I just kind of I do keep stuff from him, but kids are getting older. They're pretty easy. I've gotten used to him not being here, as hard as it is to say. But I want him home, but I want him better. I want him to want to come home.
Sure.
I don't want to force it,
Sure. So the therapy sessions, is it all individual, or has it been anything like as a group therapy at all?
So with I can say this, but with our situation and going through the workman's comp stuff, we have not started marriage counseling because we don't want that brought up. They know everything. You know what I mean?
Understood.
So, yeah.
They'll use that against us. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's another reason, it's people can't get help. I know we need help, but we know that if we go to counseling together, they're going to say your marriage caused this, not, you got PTSD somehow from your marriage and not from an incident that I responded to.
What a crock.
In the meantime, all we want to do is try to get him home, and that's what I want to work on. I just want start getting him,
With
and
you.
and he has come, spent the night. He has, Christmas, like we spent the whole week, we've gone away to our family's houses. We do everything still as a family. So that's what is important, is our kid, like us, but our kids, and our kids know that we love them and that we love each other. And I think our kids are doing great. So, because we're very open with them.
Yeah. And I think that's such an important thing that, now my son's 11.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was sick, he was 6. So it was a horrible time because he was old enough to know something was wrong, but not old enough to really understand understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now, he gets it now. He's a very inquisitive and super intelligent kid, and we've always been very open with him about my struggles and things that have gone on. And I think, how kids this day and age, you have to be a resilient kid because it's a different landscape than when we were
Right.
kids.
What if they have a friend that's struggling, and they're going to be able to be that kid that may be able to help a friend, because they're going to recognize that that person, that kid, may have some problems. And hey, you know what? I would love for our kids to be able to, they're good kids, and I'd love for them to be able to help others too.
Absolutely. We always put that in the forefront. We're like, always be kind and help others because, they come from public safety families. It's what we do. It's what we do. Josh, tell me, if there's someone listening that's struggling but afraid to speak up, what would you say to them?
They've got to find help. You can't, it's okay to not do it alone. Because if you're sitting there alone, it's just going to keep getting worse and keep festering. You gotta seek help, whether it's through a therapist or a friend. Let somebody know you're hurting. Or you make that phone call to the suicide hotline or 1-800-COP line. You talk to somebody. 1-800-COP line is mostly retired police officers. So you're actually talking to somebody on the job that, understands kind of what you're going through and everything. And it's anonymous. They don't give your information to anybody unless, obviously you need some more help. But you got to find help. You can't fight it alone, and I thought I could for all those weeks. I thought it was going to go away, and it just kept getting worse. Once you stop losing sleep, your mind plays tricks on you, man, and you can't control it. So don't let it get to that point. You start having dreams, you probably should start talking to somebody. So that's your mind telling you something's wrong.
Speaking of the resources like the 1-800-COP and things like that, any books or different programs or any organizations that made a difference? Oh, you're fine. Go answer the door if you need to. Yeah, no problem.
Sorry, we got kids on the lookout. Yeah, so when I was in rehab, when I got sent down there by Joe, my therapist, I was in a really, really, really bad spot. I didn't realize how bad I was. I knew I had a suicide attempt, but I didn't realize how bad things were. So I read a book when I first got to therapy that really helped me. It was called How I Survived When My Brain Was Trying to Kill Me. I mean, it basically is like a manual, a step-by-step guide on how to survive suicidal thoughts.
Oh, wow.
So it's a pretty quick, easy read. It's got a lot of resources in it, but it was a great book to open my eyes that, and it was written by a civilian. It wasn't a police officer or anybody. The book works for anybody. But it was kind of opened my eyes that what I was going through was what other people, if there's enough to write a book about it, there's a lot of people out there going through what I'm going through. And this book helped me survive. And it was a really good one. So, but any kind of reading is great. It gets your mind working. That's why I picked up tattooing, just because it gets my mind off of stuff. I can escape reality for that little bit of time, and reading a book does the same thing. So it doesn't matter what you're reading, as long as you're reading something that, isn't going to traumatize you, but get your mind working. I highly recommend that.
Awesome. Any other organizations that you know of, or any any other places that you've reached out other than therapists, or any, like you said, an 800 cop or whatever? Are there any other police officer friends that you can reach out to, like personally,
Yeah,
that you've done?
I do have some friends. Unfortunately, my coworkers and stuff have kind of faded away, which is a shame.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have coworkers and good family friends and family that are very supportive of me. 12 Oaks down in Florida was the inpatient place that I went to. They have a heroes program for military and first responders. That was absolutely amazing. It's all geared towards substance, alcohol abuse, and mental health for first responders and military. So you're grouped in with all the guys that have seen and done the worst things, and just sharing your stories and having that shoulder to lean on. I still keep in contact with most of those guys. They're like family to me now, because we all check on each other. If someone doesn't answer their phone, we're all harassing them, making sure they're okay. So, because it gives us that camaraderie. So don't be afraid to go to therapy, whether it's, just with a therapist, or if you go to inpatient. That has saved my life. Understanding, what I was going through wasn't just me. I didn't go crazy. I didn't lose my mind. This is just how my brain reacted to a really bad incident. So just knowing that, if I would have known that before, I probably would have been okay. And so if I could share that to another police officer or first responder or dispatcher or anybody, to just know that you're okay. Your brain is very powerful, but you're okay, and you can learn to live with it, and you can learn to think differently and work through these things.
And the big take home, I think, is from our first guest interview, my friend Dan Schultz. He said, reach out and reach out often. And I think that's such an important saying, because we all heard it. We all hear it from in the first responder community, where we're saying, oh, you can always call me, I don't care what time, my phone's always open. And there's people out there like myself, we actually mean it. We mean it.
Yeah.
Because it takes 5 minutes of time, if someone's on that edge, to just be like, yo, let's bring it in. We got this.
Yep.
We can work through it. So it's a lending ear, and it's such a easy thing, is to lend an ear to people. And that's all sometimes it can take, is just that.
Yep. Yeah. And you don't know who's dealing with that. So reach out to all your coworkers and be that strong person for them, or at least a shoulder to lean on. Some people will text me and be like, I'm sorry if I'm bothering you and stuff, but we're not.
Mm-hmm.
You can always answer a text or a phone call. And if I don't answer a text or a phone call, it's because I'm napping or something, or at an appointment. But I always get back to you, and it means a lot, when someone reaches out, and then it gives me an opportunity to talk to them too, and make sure they're okay. So reaching out and checking on me gives me the opportunity to check on you as well. So it goes both ways, and I need to do more of that as well. But don't forget anybody, and it's usually the person that's smiling the biggest that is hurting the worst.
Yeah. Becky, from your perspective, where can families turn for support?
Friends and family. Like, my biggest support is my mom, my sisters, Josh's mom. Like, just, I'm in touch with them every day. If you don't have family, then your coworkers or a therapist, it all helps. It helps to talk about it with people that you can relate to, but sometimes you don't have that. So, but
That's
therapy
the
is
unfortunate
good.
thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. I mean, we kind of kept it pretty quiet for a little bit, so that was hard in the beginning. I think Josh was just,
You
scared.
just say
He didn't know.
embarrassed. Yeah.
Yeah, embarrassed. He didn't want anybody to know. And actually, I had a good opportunity where, there was a couple times where I was like, oh, okay, yeah, something's wrong. But the day where I really knew something was wrong was, well, actually 2 days, but one night where I came home, he was in pretty rough shape, on the phone with the HR director at work. screaming for help, just help me. And they went back and forth about, well, we don't know who's responsible for, who's going to pay for it. I said, I don't care who's going to pay for it. Just get him an appointment. I had to step in. He was crying and screaming for help. So later that night, I had to work the next day. I did lay down for a few minutes and I went downstairs to check on him. And all of a sudden, we've got our phone's going off. Please answer me. His phone's ringing and he's like, what's going on? Like someone's saying I said something on Facebook. Well, without knowing it, he went on Facebook and he put help me.
Oh,
So
wow.
that night was where people saw it and he didn't remember doing it.
I don't remember that now, even right
He
now.
said, no, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. And he did. Obviously, he was crying out for help. He was reaching out for help. And his department was worried about who was going to pay for an appointment for him. I said, I have insurance. I don't care who pays for this appointment. Get him an appointment. That's your responsibility.
Yeah.
And that's what that Act 59 says. So get him an appointment and we'll go from there. He's asking for help, screaming for help.
And they were refusing it just because they were worried about payment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The other time I knew something was wrong, and this is where I actually reached out. This was before that he had posted the car that he sweat, blood, tears, rebuilt this car from the ground up with it was his stepdad's. It's a 1970 Chevelle, and he posted it for sale. I woke up to that, and that was like, what are you doing? So that morning, and we had kept this from a lot of people, like what was going on with him. I called his mom and was like, I need help. I can't do this anymore. And I said, he put the car up for sale. This is where you can step in without him knowing that I asked you for help. So then his mom and his stepdad stepped in and we started, trying to get him help. And that support of just me trying to be supportive of him. And I don't even know how long that was before I asked for help. It was hard. It was really hard. I just couldn't do it on my own.
Yep.
You're so lucky to have that support system. I'm sure there's people out there that don't have that.
Yeah. Sorry.
We're back. Josh didn't have his phone plugged in.
There we go. All right.
Good.
Yeah. Just makes it exciting.
Heck yeah, absolutely. See, and that, like, I'm not going to probably edit that at all because it's funny.
Yeah.
It's the rawness of the podcast.
Yeah.
That's what I like
This
about
is
it.
Josh.
That's my forgetfulness.
Yes.
Rearing its ugly face.
All good, man.
Yep.
Now, Josh, as you continue healing, as you work your way through navigating through this, what message do you want to leave for others who might be in the same dark place that you were?
That it's okay, that there's hope out there and there's help out there. It's okay to feel those horrible feelings. It's okay to feel suicidal as long as you don't act on it. Josh from 2 years ago would have said you're absolutely insane if you think it's okay to feel suicidal. But after going to therapy and understanding, that's just a thought. You can't prevent your brain from thinking a certain way. And if you're in that dark spot and you feel that way, work through it and feel it and understand that it's not permanent. And tomorrow could be a better day, or it may be a week, it may be a month, but there are better days ahead, and get that help you need. So it's okay to feel suicidal as long as you don't act it out, as long as you don't go through with it, you don't attempt it, just feel it and understand that it's just a bad place in your mind right now. And you just got to breathe through it and understand that there's better days ahead. I mean, there is for everybody, even if you don't think so, you being here is better than the alternative. And you're going to miss out on a lot of stuff if you take that turn.
Yeah. We're better off being here, man. Life
Yeah.
is precious and we know how delicate it can be, but it's definitely better being here because I love being here. There's so much to look forward to.
There is. Yep. And I still have my bad days, so I understand, and I've been to that dark place. I wish I would have understood it better, through the academy and everything. I wish I would have known, what I know now, because I would have connected so much better to victims and to family and, all those 302 calls, which is like a mental health order here in Pennsylvania. I would have been able to have better understanding on what they were going through. I'd respond to, I guess one girl stands out to me. It was just screaming like she was dying for like a half an hour. And I just stood there beside her like she wasn't even there. And now I understood. I've been where she's been, and I understand it now. And it gives her a little bit more humanity, and knowing that she's a human being. Probably could have touched her a little bit better, instead of just ignoring her and letting her scream it out.
Yeah.
So it's okay, but make sure you get that help.
Yeah, that empathy and compassion is, I think everyone needs to work on, especially if you're involved in public safety, because that's our job, is to keep the public safe, and to,
Especially for managers and bosses and the chiefs and stuff, is making sure your people are safe and okay as well, because neglecting them is just a ticking time bomb. I know there's people that I worked with that are going through stuff that are scared to death to open their mouth after they saw what happened to me. So, those managers need to understand that this is where the country is going and where we need more help, and to welcome that in and welcome that help before it's too late, because nobody wants, after there's that bad suicide at a department, whether it's EMS or whether it's police or dispatcher, then all of a sudden it means a lot, but it fades off so quick,
it does.
Yep. So if it was part of like every regular day, making sure people are good and checking in, and there are those guys that just you will never reach. But knowing that your guys are okay and being there for them and open to them, and, letting them know that their job is safe, will let them reach out for help.
And I think that was one of the things that we spoke in several of the other podcasts, were introducing the mental health aspects, whether it's in the police academy, whether it's in paramedic class, or going into fire academy or anything like that. We don't expect, at least I didn't. I mean, I knew I was going to see some things getting into EMS, but I wasn't mentally prepared. I was in my 30s. So 30 years old and seeing my first dead body outside of a funeral home, it's sort of, you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
And it sticks with you. So I think it needs to start at the beginning, and then it needs to continue on with compassion and compassionate leadership. The leadership needs to put this at the forefront of our careers and the public safety realm of everything, and needs to be at the forefront of it, because we see what you're going through and what a lot of other people are going through, and they're just keeping it in because, like you said, they're scared to even bring it out into the open.
Yep. And even at the academy and stuff, before they even go, I mean, it's got to start at childhood, letting kids know that it's okay to talk, that it's okay to feel angry or pissed off about something. It's okay to feel those feelings. You're not a bad person for feeling like that. If we start that with our kids, and letting them talk about their feelings, they'll be more comfortable doing that as an adult. And then you go to the academy, and the academy's doing a lot better now. I know Allegheny County Police Academy is doing a lot better with the mental health stuff. But you also have those other instructors. You have the mental health class, and then you have an instructor 2 minutes later saying, "Suck it up, Buttercup." You got to go to the next call, and you can't be weak. So they're working on it. It's hard to get that culture, that hard, fast,
The culture, you said it exactly. The culture.
Yep.
And that's the culture that needs to break.
Exactly. And I think these older, the managers and the supervisors and the command staff and stuff, most of them are that older generation, and they just don't understand. And until they're gone, I don't think there's going to be much help, because they're pretty set in their ways, and they see you as weak, and you're out of sight, out of mind, and then you're gone.
And that's the biggest thing, is for everyone to know, the people that actually reach out for the help, we are not the weak ones. We're actually the strong ones that knew, that were like, yep, something wrong here, we need help. That's the strong thing, is being able to admit it. And I think that's what all of us need to be able to do, is have that space and have that of those people that you can go to, and then we can reach out and be like, we're not okay, and it's okay to not be okay. Becky, anything you want to leave to any other spouses or any other family members of people going through PTSD or any other mental health stuff? Is there anything that you want to say to spouses or family members that can give them some hope?
We've come a long, I feel like we've come a long way in a year. It does get better. Day by, you just take it a day at a time. Josh, I'm so proud of you for reaching out for help. I'm proud of you for, you're still here. You're still fighting. I love you. Like, me and the kids love you so much, and we're so proud of you. But yeah, as far as family, having family members or friends that are going through something like this, you just got to be there for them, and you just take it a day at a time. You can't look into the future because nobody knows what it holds anyway. But we don't know what our future looks like, but I think it's going to be a good one. Just got to take it a day at a time. Just keep pushing. Yep, one day at a time.
Sometimes it's a minute at a time.
Sometimes it is a minute at a time. Yeah.
Yep.
No, you're right.
Yeah, but no, there's hope out there, and there's help, and I'm always available. Like I said, I'm a local police officer, so a lot of people in this area know me. They can always reach out to me. I will always be there for somebody, whether it's a coffee at 6 a.m. or just talking to me on the phone at 3 a.m. I'll be there. Same as you, Bart.
Thank you, man.
And I've also had a lot of people reach out to me first if they feel more comfortable. People have reached out to me first, and then I have then relayed the information to Josh. So
that's what I did.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm totally fine with that. I advocate for him and I support him. But yeah, if you feel comfortable reaching out to me as a spouse going through something like this, I am also an open book like Josh, and I will talk to you about anything.
The great thing for me is my son's school resource officer. She's the one who actually passed along the information to me. She's like, you need to speak to Josh and Becky. I was like, okay. So I found you and I reached out and here we are. And I think, and I was telling Josh before you hopped on, I was like, these interviews for me and my wife, just talking to other folks, it's therapy for me.
Yeah.
It really is. And I think it really shows the humanity of public safety people. We go on these calls where we see these broken people, or the person in the worst time of their life, or the little old lady that's just lonely. But this really shows the humanity of it. It makes you see the police officer, you're a human being, and you've seen and gone through stuff that no human beings need to go through. But we chose that path to help people even in their darkest times. And then when that time of us, when we need to reach out, and to have the upper echelon not be there for you because you do this job and they want you to be at the top of your game. And if you have these issues, you're weak. It's not. We're human beings. We sacrifice a lot to make sure that others are safe and are healthy. This is the dialogue that we need to open up with all first responders, that there is a place, whether it be our podcast or any other podcast that's dealing with it. This is what we need to do. We need to have this open and honest dialogue with other people to make sure that we're okay. So we continue doing our jobs and keep protecting the public.
For sure. And I would love to go to police departments and talk to the brass and talk to officers and let them know it's okay to talk, just because right now, the only way you can get help is to ask for yourself, because they don't do anything. They don't want to bring it in. They don't want to bring in a speaker about PTSD because then it opens the floodgates. But, if they know it's okay and understand what they're going through, that would be huge. So I'd be willing to talk to anybody about it. I can't reach out to you if I don't know you're hurting, but you can reach out to me, which is, once again, the bad part, because you got to take that step. you got to take that step and ask for help. But it would be a lot better if these departments would bring people in ahead of time before it gets that bad, so they don't have to reach out for help. The help comes to them.
How about the idea of let's be proactive and not be reactive?
%. Yep. It's
And
not hard.
Becky, can you share your page that you have up on social media platforms? Are you able to do that, or would you like to keep that under?
It is a private page, so I don't think people can ask to be invited to it, but they can reach out to me if they would like to be invited to it, or Josh, and we can invite
Get
people.
them on that page.
Yeah.
It just basically gives updates on what's going on with me, and it's a support page. So
a lot of people praying for him and support him, and and I try to, if we have a hearing or if we have anything going on, I try to share that in there. That way people know what's going on. There's a lot of people in it that care.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's unbelievable. The people that came out that, I never would have expected. I've got a lot of good support behind me. Not from my department, but from family and friends and, other people on the job. A lot of retired guys that, actually get it. It's like that older generation. I think they're retired and they know how bad the job beat them up. And then they see it going through a younger guy and they want to reach and catch us before, we fall down as hard as they do. So a lot of retired cops have reached out to me. My old department, I'm down in Virginia. They contact me all the time. So the support has been overwhelming, and just know that if you reach out for help, you'll be surprised how much support you actually have, and everybody will be there for you.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, when he went away to Florida, I mean, it was pretty sudden. I knew he needed it, but we actually had his old department in Arlington. They stepped up and they supported me and my kids more than his current department ever did.
Wow.
They were amazing. I thank them. Talk about paying it forward one day with so many people that helped us through that really hard time. That was the hardest time that, we had baseball season, and I would sit here and that was hard for me, but I know Josh missing out on that was even harder. But eventually we were able to have that FaceTime where I would have him right there on the field when our son was up to bat or our daughter was up to bat, and he was watching and cheering for them. So we did the best that we could do. But that department is amazing. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, guys, is there anything that you would like to leave our listeners as a send off for you guys? And again, thank you so much for being so open about everything. Anything you want to tell the viewers?
I would just tell management and police departments to step up. We're police officers and first responders have a very high suicide rate, and you don't want it to happen to your department. That'll crush everybody. So just be smart, step up, do something proactive to help the mental health of your guys, whatever you seem fit, but do something and educate them on what PTSD is, because there's the occurrence of PTSD, now that I know what it is and how it affects people, is way higher than you can ever imagine, and a lot of people don't even talk about it. So management, step up and do what you should be doing for your men, reaching out again once again to the people that need help. I know you have to take that step and ask for help, which is the hardest thing you'll ever have to do, but I'd rather you be here, take that step, and rather you be here for that next party or for that next get together or whatever it is. I'd rather get that phone call at 3 a.m. than go into the police station the next morning and find out, something happened.
Yeah. You guys are human too. You guys have feelings.